Yo, what's up, bro?
Yo, what's up?
You know I had to pull up on you, man.
I appreciate you.
You ready?
Yeah, let's do it.
Yo, what's good, y'all? This is ToTo from Creators Club, and we're here on the Pull-Up series with my guy, Jaetips. What's good, Jay? How you feeling?
So thank you for having me. I appreciate it being
Nice to finally meet you. How's your day going so far?
My day's good. Just blessed to just be working and just happy, healthy with the family.
So how did you get the name Jaetips?
I got the name Jaetips because, growing up, there was a rapper named Jaquan, which is my middle name, Jaquan. He had a song called Tipsy. He was from St. Louis. And just people would call me Tipsy, just like on a basketball court everywhere. So after a while, like Jay Tipsy kind of set itself up where it was just like, it was organic. And then as I started like rhyming and being outside more, and then like early internet days, everybody had a nickname. So it was just like Jaetips kind of like was born and set in stone.
So how did you get into like fashion and stuff?
I was very young, maybe kindergarten, first grade, when I started like understanding what I was wearing. And I think that that's maybe something that doesn't really like resonate in a lot of people. Like they may have everything, but maybe the clothes don't. Maybe the clothes are wearing them and they're not wearing the clothes.
Right.
So I just kind of like, at that age, I knew that I wanted my Jordans to match this kind of t-shirt, and I needed a new hat, or I needed something that went with this, or it was back to school, so you're looking forward to like the new Air Force Ones and stuff. So just kind of like, that was like where my love came from. And just over time, like, no matter what I was doing, my style would always kind of get like picked up. Like you're in a room full of people and it's like you got on like just something that people know is like either a limited item, or that's a really hype brand, or like that's a rare hat or something. And before you know it, it's like, yo, if I'm gonna step in rooms and everybody's gonna mention something I'm wearing, whether it's my sneakers, whether it's a Bape t-shirt, Supreme t-shirt or something, why not wear my own stuff and get that same impact?
Right.
So that's kind of what I was really on. Like if I'm gonna pull up to a show and there's gonna be 40 cameras running and all this video, like I wanna be wearing my own stuff. I'm gonna be keep making all these people some money.
Right. So you would definitely say it's not just on you, it's definitely in you.
Yeah, definitely.
Style is like a thing. I always say you could have on Gucci, you could have on Prada, you could have on whatever you want. If it's not in you, it's not gonna hit.
Yeah.
So how long you been pretty much at it?
Well, with my own brand, I would say I've been at it, I would say since like maybe 2013, 2014, like doing like underground music scene. I would just always like put my logo on the side of my hat, or I would always make sure like my logo was on like the center of a shirt, because I would always like wear like outer items. Like I would always have like a vest or a jacket or something. So it's like I wanted to make sure like my logo was always in the center. So even if I still had on my jacket, or like if you see me from the side, you'll see something. Or you see me from this side, you'll see something. So I just always was like very, very brand aware. And that was probably like 2013, 2014. And around like 2019, right before the pandemic, I just kind of like just started to like take it up a notch. Like I told myself that I want to be able to look like an actual clothing brand, even though I'm just making like rap merch, and it kind of just kind of planned itself out that way.
You mentioned music. How significant is music to you and your brand?
Music is everything. I feel like I learned every way that I market myself, every way that I kind of put myself out there, from me trying to make some noise as a musician. Like I was in high school passing out mixtapes and selling my own mixtapes and doing the high school talent shows and the college talent shows, and then going to like people on the underground in New York City would know, like doing all the small venues, then getting to SOBs, and then putting yourself on Twitter and Instagram so much that you end up on like XXL and The Source and all that. Like I learned how to put myself out there and kind of market myself, package my way a certain way, because I was trying to promote myself through music, which is just a strong asset in clothing. And clothing, if you know how to promote yourself, like it's almost like gold. You could be selling something that's just, you can sell one t-shirt, but if you know how to market it and you know how to do a campaign and run an ad and get it on the right people, then it's almost like you really like off and running. And it's been able to really transition for me well.
Do you still do music now?
Yeah, of course. I think music is just in my blood. I think there's no way to retire from it. I'm not currently active. Like, you're not gonna check my Instagram and see that I have a show next week.
Okay.
But I'm still like, trying to find my footing again, because I was really like a backpack like artist. Like I was really like studio in the living room, and big headphones and on the train and trying to go to studios and like play with the sound and trying to get things to sound a certain type of way. So when the fashion stuff really took off and I'm got meetings all day and I'm in Zooms all day and I'm traveling and I'm maybe on a flight mode and I'm home, it's been hard to still kind of like be locked in the same way that you got to kind of live and breathe it to really like even just get to the next level of music.
How did you come up with the name Savior? I noticed that on a lot of your clothes, your t-shirts and stuff like that.
I feel like I've always like worked in like clothing into like my punch lines, and I always talk about brands and my music, and an artist I got that from was Stack Bundles. And he used to always call himself the Savior. Like he used to scream like the Savior on like songs. So like I used to like early on while I was like trying to really like distinguish myself musically and like through my bars, like I would call myself the Uptown Savior. And I just happened to get through like so much years of putting myself out there that I was like, you know what, I want to connect to my roots, and I just named my album The Savior. So all the merch for like the album was Savior, Savior this, Savior that, Savior this, and it almost like turned into a brand on its own.
Now, if somebody told you that it'd take 10 to 15 years to get where you are right now, would you believe them?
I wouldn't believe him. I wouldn't believe him because I would have assumed it would have happened faster. Just because like, I feel like I've been Jaetips for 15, 16 years. Like there's people that I run into in the Bronx that remember me from playing baseball in high school, or remember me from playing basketball at 12 years old, or remember me from like maybe showcases or SOBs or the Hot 97 Who's Next contest or doing stuff like that. Like, so it's like I've been on my journey of Who's Jaetips for a long time, and I think when you have such a belief in self, you feel like everything you do is what's gonna be the next one. Like every interview, every article, every song, every video, every time you meet someone, every connection, every networking event, like every time someone even gives you their number, like, yo, call me, man, we're gonna figure it out. We're gonna make something happen. You always think that that's the moment that you closer and closer to your dream. So I probably would have been like, you shitting me. Like, it's gonna happen by 2015. So, you know, but I'm blessed to have it happen when it did, though.
Right now, looking at where you're at now, do you consider that you made it?
I think making it has two different meanings sometimes. I think if you could wake up and feel like you able to do what you want to do and take your kids to school and be able to like make your passion pay your bills, I think you made it at that point. But I do think from like society standpoint and people looking at it like, wow, he got his own shoe, and wow, he went from making his own hats to doing it on an official level on a high scale. Like, maybe I made it in some way, in the way that people would kind of judge it from outside.
Right. So during the journey, what's some obstacles that you faced, and if any, that made you feel like, damn, I don't want to do this no more?
Probably most of us, bills.
Word.
I think that with more responsibility come higher bills. You know, I put myself in situations a lot of times that it was like, you know you could go back, right? Like, you know, like it's just, when it starts to get real chaotic, it's like I love to walk into the fire, and a lot of times you could just turn around and be like, yo, you know, it is easier to go get a job and just kind of find like some leverage in your life and find some stability and be able to focus and shut it down and not be an entrepreneur, because people, as much as they probably want to be the boss, it's like it comes with so much. Like you don't get breaks, you don't get vacations, you don't get stuff. Like you may see me physically somewhere, but I'm not clocked out. Like I'm still on call at all times. And it's like, I think stuff like that, sometimes you get in your mind and you're just like, yo, like this is a lot. But at the end of the day, it's like, I know how long it took me to want to even be real busy. Like I remember a long time in my life fake busy, like trying to occupy my hours, but being real busy is something I wouldn't trade. So
how do you balance being an entrepreneur and also being a dad?
I'm still learning that part. Just because they overlap. I think as much as like when you talk about it, like I'm a dad, but I'm also like, you know, I'm a fashion designer and I make hats and I design sneakers. That doesn't change the fact that I'm in a meeting and my son is FaceTiming me. Or I gotta, you know, figure out, even though like I get the biggest opportunity in the world and I gotta be somewhere tomorrow, it's like, who's gonna pick my kid up from school? Who's gonna bring them to school? Who's gonna feed them? Who's gonna do this? Who's gonna do that? So still learning that balance, but I think that eventually you come to terms with being able to set your schedule up and do everything like right, where everybody doesn't feel neglected. Stuff like that.
What's the first thing you created and how did you come up with that
The first thing I created was some hats. I think I was putting like a NY logo on like some Yupong snapbacks and just like selling them to like my coworkers at work. And they were like, you know, it was fun to see people kind of like gear up for like when you had a show, because people want to support you. They'll want to buy like a $15 ticket to go see you perform somewhere for 7 minutes, but when they had like your hat or your t-shirt, it was like going to a Knicks game. Like, like this my boy, this my boy, we're going to represent today. So that was probably the first thing, and that really gave me a rush and a thrill. But that stuff is hard to kind of maintain, because even if you're making a little bit of profit, like your goal is to break even, but when you're making profit, it's like you still got bills. So it's like, you know, I want to re-up, but that 200, 300 that I put in, I need that back. So it's it was real tough to really get momentum when I first started. So it'd be like maybe a hat one year, and next year like a button on a jacket, and then maybe like the next year I'll restock those hats from the first year. Like just really until like I really was like, you know what, I'm gonna take this super serious.
Your first sneaker, how did that come about?
My first sneaker came about through just, you know, making the right connections. I was, you know, making a lot of relationships with like people that worked at Nike, and one of my homies, he was working at Nike at the time, and he was just like, yo, like, you know, I want to introduce you to somebody that works at Saucony. And Saucony, I told them a little bit about you. I told them what you do. I told them what you stand for and what your plans are and stuff. And they, you know, it aligns with them. They're interested in speaking to you. And I got on the phone with them, and they were like, yo, we love that you've been doing these hats. We love that you like do pop-ups, and you got an office, and you're from the Bronx, and like, you know, you have kids and all this stuff. Like, if you would ever be interested in working with us, like, we'll love to like see what we could do. And it was just like, you know, I just looked at it like a challenge. I looked at it like kicking the door open in the industry. I kind of looked at it like Michael Jordan's Air moment, or like Ronnie Fieg when he was at Asics, or like Joe Freshgoods with New Balance. I looked at it like somebody taking a chance, somebody taking a real risk. So I was like, you know, if I kick the door open and I do well, like the odds is in my favor. And if I don't do well, then like, you know, at least I got a chance. So
we do not pronounce it Saucony. It's Saucony?
It's Saucony.
All the time I've been pronouncing it totally wrong.
Yeah, but you know, that's the one thing about their brand, that like they understand that everybody says Saucony, but it's actually named Saucony after like the Saucony River.
Got it.
So like it, even their logo is the river stream. So it's just like they try to, you know, they try to make sure that like people have the brand knowledge and stuff too. So it's you know, everybody's learning through each other in this process. So.
Prior to getting that collab with them, was it like, did you want to have a collab with like Nike or like a bigger brand?
I think that everybody's childhood brand is to work with Nike or Jordan. I think maybe Nike's a little bit more where you think you could be, because like Jordan, you know, is Jordan. Even though they collab with people, it's like nobody's ever going to be bigger than 2-3.
Right.
Well, I think that Nike is just like, you've seen the Virgils, you've seen the V-Lone, you've seen the people be able to be real successful and change their brands and change their lives through collaboration. So of course I wanted that to be me, but you know, it just didn't happen. It didn't work out. So, you know, I'm able to still create. And I think that that's something that people sometimes try to sit in their hands and wait to be chosen. And I just was somebody that was like, you know, I'm going to go somewhere that's going to give me a shot, and I'm going to prove myself. Did you ever own a pair of Sauconys prior to having your sneakers? Yeah, I owned a pair of the Bodega Shadow 6000s. It came out like 20, maybe 13. I like wore them to like Summer Jam one time. It rained. I got like a crazy scuff and ripped. So I never really actually wore them again. But when I sat down with Saucony, the first thing I was saying was, could I make a shoe like that? Because that's a shoe that you can't take for granted. The shoes that you they grow on you organically. Like, this is a shoe that like I see, I like. I didn't care whose it was. I didn't care if it was a collab. I didn't even know what Bodega was. Like, I wanted this shoe because I liked it. I liked the fabric. I liked the feel. I thought it was comfortable. People asked me what it was. It broke necks. So I wanted to create something that I knew that people would look back and wonder what you're wearing and wonder where you got it from, because that's how I grew up. I feel like with all the resale and all the crazy stuff going on, like, we kind of lost the love of like people just wondering, like, oh, what you wearing? Those are fly. Like, what's the name of those? Where you got those from? That's how I grew up.
Right.
So just wanted to create that feeling again.
Do you think Saucony is big in the Black community?
I think that all sneakers that aren't expensive is big in our community, just because you could. It was only so often that you could convince your mom to drop the 150, 160 on like a pair of Jordans, if that. So the New Balances, the Sauconys, the Asics, or just certain things like was the shoes that you could go get for $59, $60, and it was more in like your price range to go back to school or be a kid and get them dirty. So I think that a lot of times you are connected with sometimes those brands, but they also are connected sometimes to your childhood or like when you really didn't have it like that. Mm-hmm. And then I feel like, a lot of those brands are kind of coming back with new momentum and new feeling and new representation, where it isn't just I got those because I couldn't get the more expensive shoe. Like, I got those because they're fly. I got those because I want to wear them.
You think your collab with them will like raise the hype of Saucony? Although we all know Saucony, but do you think it'll make people like, nah, I really want to get a pair?
That was one of the first things I said in the meeting, like with them. I said that this would be most people's first. I feel like this would be most people first, but the thing about being there first is it's the beginning of a journey. So, now you gotta, you can only get to the next level if the whole program grows. So, like now they're gonna be checking for what's next. They're gonna be checking for who's next, who's the next partner, who's the next big shoe, what's the next one I wanna throw in the collection, because most people that love shoes, their journey and their story is how many boxes can I stack to the ceiling? How many boxes can I get? Like, and growing up, that's how people determine like your shoe game, how many you had. So if this is people's first one, what are we gonna do next? Right. I think that's the road we're on now, but I do think that they're in a good position because they do have a rich history. They do have like, and that's not just me capping for the people that put me in position, but it's like when you think about brands who have silhouettes that go back 30 years, 40 years, 50 years, they're one of them. Right. They're not the most popular brand. They're not as known as Adidas, but they have as many shoes as Adidas. Right. They're not as popping as Nike, but they have just as many. Like they was in that same East Bay catalog in '99 that we had on our dresser. You're gonna swipe it, you're gonna see the same Saucony that's in stores now, just because they have that history. But I think it takes a little bit of tailoring, a little bit of different chefs in the kitchen to really make certain things pop and things go crazy. And even my shoe came out in the year 2000. And some people may think this is a new silhouette just because they never seen it before, but there's so many colorways and so much different history. So like, let's just keep building. Complex Con, how did that come about? Like, do they reach out to you or you have to reach out to them? What's that process like? Well, just me being a fan of the industry, I would go to Complex Con as a fan and try to buy stuff to resell, try to buy stuff to do that, try to go to one year, I think like Cudi was headliner, or like I think Kanye was supposed to be there. But like as my brand grew, I was like, I would love to be here as a brand. And it's just like, you apply just like any other convention and stuff, but they do have like a committee because they probably got 1,000 people reaching out. But that's when like having like a solid Instagram and having like your brand look a certain type of way and going a little bit the extra mile to do shoots and certain content and stuff goes a long way when someone only gets a chance to be like, who's Savior Worldwide, who's Jaetips? And they probably have 5 seconds, 10 seconds to approve you or deny you. It's like that's when it's good to have a solid looking page. Right. So it just goes about that. But then after that, it's just like everything else. Gotta pay. You gotta make sure you pay for everything and get the stuff from New York to LA, and then you gotta set up shop, hire people to work. How do you pick what cities you want to do pop-ups at? It's energy. I'm like real direct to consumer. Like I'm really always in the comments asking people like, where you want to see me next? And I pay attention to stuff like that. Like if 55 people said Charlotte, and I'm thinking maybe they rock with me out there. Maybe we should go out there. Maybe we should see how they rocking with me. Like is there a store that carry my stuff? Is people that are really like taste makers that follow me, like because then maybe I need to get right with them, get close to them. But that's just kind of how I pay attention. It's like the big markets, because you could go places and it's not that you're not popping, but maybe they're not really like fashion forward. Maybe they're really like, they just want to wear stuff they seen 21 Savage wear. Like they don't care about up and coming brands. They just want stuff that's already stamped. Right. And there's nothing wrong with that, but it's still like for up and coming brand, it'll be tough for you to get a line of 500 kids outside if this city is more like just kind of rocking with people that's already on. Like they want gallery department. They don't care how good your stuff is. They want it to say gallery department.
Would you say that is different exposure in different cities?
Definitely. I think the fan is different. I think the consumer is different. I think that like in New York, I always say like New York people respect me, but I think in LA people kind of like look up to me. Like I think like in LA, like people really like want to sit there and have a conversation with you, and really like take a picture with you and their mom and their girlfriend and do stuff like that. And in New York, like people's like, you know, peace king, like, you know what I'm saying? Like, you know, respect what you doing, word. Like, like stand next to me for 20 minutes, not say nothing, but then say something when they about to leave. Like, you know what I'm saying? So it's just little stuff like that, but it's like every city's different.
What's your top 3 cities?
Top city got to be New York, of course, that's hometown. I would say LA. And after that is maybe like just Charlotte. I think Charlotte probably has been the city that showed me the most organic love. Like, it was a city I was in for maybe 5 days and felt like a king every day. Like restaurants giving me food and, you know, giving me clothes and people like asking me to sign autographs all day and people pulling up and stuff that I didn't even remember making that. But it's like, wow, you've been supporting me that long. Just, that's also like, that's kind of like a flyover city. So it taught me that people kind of really valued you being there. Like people were like, yo, like people usually go to Atlanta 2 more hours, 3 more hours.
Right.
So it's like, thank you for being here. So I would say that. And I did like a Charlotte hat, and every time I released it, it would sell out. Like I was like, you know what? If it's a good week to restock that Charlotte hat and just keep moving, keep selling.
Did you ever consider moving to any of the cities that you went to?
The only city I've ever seen myself really like I could get jiggy here is probably LA. I mean, not LA, Miami. Miami it just felt like a very, very good, like the weather's good and like the restaurants is good and I could chill, and if I need to be somewhere else fast I could. It's always flights in and out, so probably like Miami.
How important it is for you to like bet on yourself?
I feel like if you don't bet on yourself, you're already losing. I feel like that, you know, anybody waiting to get kind of chosen or anybody waiting for like to get selected for something, like you're already kind of behind the 8 ball. And I think that betting on yourself is like just a big ingredient in just all different industries. I think like the person that follows up, the person that shows up, like attendance, the person that comes through, the person that loses that extra hour or 2 hours of sleep just to finish a project, the person that takes the time to learn something instead of having to hire people. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, I think that person really gets further than a lot of others. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, and it's also too like just a self-sufficient thing. Like sometimes instead of like bringing a whole team of people together where you got to cut these checks, like sometimes you got to learn a little post-production and pre-production and how to book something and how to set up for something, showing up on time. Like a lot of that is betting on yourself too. Yeah. Like, because, you know, it's like the main ingredient to me to how to do anything successful.
Do you think it's a misconception on like how much money you have to invest in yourself?
Yeah, because I don't think that investing is all the time just monetary. Like investing is also like believing in yourself and the people around you and being a good leader and being a good, like, just kind of like sport about like a lot of things. I think that's investing in yourself. Like spending 20 hours on something, like that's an investment. Like if you think about it, like we could 100%, like if you think about it, everything in your life, you could 100% be somewhere else. Like everything that you do, like I work at this job, but I 100% could apply to this other job. I could 100% have called out today and did something else. So it's an investment just to spend that time to put it towards something. But it's also important to put it towards something that you think that has longevity and continue. Like I don't work here just because I don't have nothing else to do. I work here because I need this money. You know what I'm saying? Or I'm doing this project because I want this show to get picked up. Or I'm doing this campaign because I want to do bigger campaigns. Like, you know, like for instance, like my shoes are releasing this year, even though I already released the shoe this year, but it's like, no, I need this one to be even bigger than the next. You know, so I need this one because that's going to make the projects even bigger, and that's going to make the budgets even bigger, and that's an investment.
What's some advice that you'll give to the youth?
Some advice I'll give to the youth is just follow through. I think one thing that I see that a lot of people suffer from is getting things done. I think a lot of people have talent, a lot of people have energy, a lot of people have motion. Like a lot of people out here moving, grooving, and making noise, but a lot of people don't have that to get things finished and get things done. So just kind of seeing things through.
And lastly, official hats with New Era.
Yeah.
That's about to come out. How do you feel about that?
I feel good just because it's been a long time in the making to be able to create on a high level. I think that even having a New Era account is something that you gotta have. Like, it's almost like looking at a job website. Like when you look at certain job descriptions and they be like, yo, you need 15 years of experience, and you need 20 years of this, and you need 5 years of this, you need this degree. Like, that's the type of stuff that it takes to get a New Era account. Like, if you go into stores that sell New Era, they're all like people that are older age and people that maybe had a business since the 90s and stuff. So it's like, just to be able to be someone that they offer the New Era account to be able to pump out these hats and order when I want. Like, I don't take that for granted, to be able to really be a part of something fly, something that's in our culture, like people wearing good headwear.
Well, I appreciate you for letting us pull up on you in your city, your town, and I can't wait to see more from you.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Thank you for having me.